What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how to put a border on your chunky knit blanket. This took about 1 full skein of yarn, and this is a baby-sized blanket, about a 24 by 34 in length. So 1 full skein should be enough for a blanket that size. And what I did starting off was I created 2 loops by pulling the working yarn under the braid. So if you stick your finger under there, you'll be able to tell that there is a division between the braid and the rest of the blanket. So you create 2 small loops from there to start off with. And then you just pull your working yarn through the 2 loops. It's very similar to finishing a blanket, like I showed in the previous video, where you create the braid. It's very similar to that, where you always have to have 2 loops and then you pull your working yarn through, except the difference is with a border, you're going through the border. And then as you go through the border, you pull it up through the 2 loops, and then you repeat the process and come up with another loop. So just always make sure you have 2 loops in your hand before you bring your working yarn through the 2 loops. And I know that probably sounds really confusing, but it's not. So if you have any questions, just feel free to comment and ask me anything you need to, and I will gladly respond. And you just continue this process all the way around the blanket. There's no need to stop, of course, unless you run out of yarn and you have to add more. But like I said, 1 full skein did this blanket. Now the sides of the blanket are different from the ends of the blanket where the braid is. So when it comes to this part, you do the exact same thing where you just find the 2 stitches in the blanket on the end. You've put your finger under the 2 stitches, and then you just feed your yarn through and go through the 2 loops. Make sure you always have 2 loops. This part can be a little bit difficult because you can never really tell exactly where the stitches are. So you may have to kind of mess with it a little bit to figure it out, especially if you're a beginner. But once you get one, you'll be able to go all the way down. Okay, now as you see here, I'm getting down to the very end of the border, and I'm going to show you how to connect the ends and make it look seamless. And I was actually running short on yarn when it comes to the end of this, so I had to experiment with this and come up with the best way to make it look seamless and not interrupted. So as you see here, I'm just finishing my last loop, and I was trying to figure out where to put the little tails that were left over. So I kind of just played around a little bit to see what made it look the best, and I decided to just tie it around and then fuse it together. That way it creates one loop. And once I fused the two tails together, it created one loop. So then I just put one loop inside of the other, and that created one singular loop. So then I took the one loop that was left over and I cut it so that there was two ends. And I fused the two ends into part of the border going down. That way it kind of covered any leftover green that maybe wasn't covered during the stitching process. And after that, your blanket is complete. I love the way this turned out. I love the borders. They just make the blanket pop. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments. The final result, I absolutely love this. It turned out so well for this to be the first time I've ever completed a border on one of these blankets. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and always subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.